When BRICS was established in 2009, the West never gave it any attention. The United States in particular deemed it an insignificant economic organization that could never be a threat to them in any way. So-called international analysts and experts said that BRICS can never be as organized and united as the European Union to achieve any significant goal or purpose. They said its members are too antagonistic towards one another, and so can never achieve anything. However, this seemingly insignificant organization has grown to become a threat to the economic power of the United States. The interesting thing is that it has now become so obvious that the United States and Europe cannot help but be aware of it, and they are literally freaking out. Just a few weeks ago, U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump came out to say that if he wins the U.S. presidential election, he won't allow other countries to abandon the dollar. In his own words, "I don't want people leaving the dollar, and I feel that way, but I will tell you, it has taken on a life. I hate when countries go off the dollar. I would not allow countries to go off the dollar, because when we lose that standard, that will be like losing a revolutionary war. That will be a hit to our country just like losing a war, and we can't let that happen, and too many countries now are fighting to get off the dollar." In April, the U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, as well as the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, traveled to China to warn China about supporting Russia. Even French President Macron said in one of his latest speeches that Europe could die, and it should stop depending on the United States. All these just point to the fact that the U.S. has just realized that it's about to lose its economic power in the world. And honestly, whatever that is happening and is about to happen to the United States is its fault. There have been talks of reducing reliance on the dollar for a long time, but right now, the calls have increased and actions have been put in place because the United States has been using its currency as a weapon to force other sovereign countries to do its bidding. After the United States sanctioned Russia in 2022, freezing its reserve currency, which is the dollar, restricting key imports, and locking the country out of the SWIFT international banking system, countries around the world began to realize that if it could happen to Russia, then it could also happen to them. Russia itself refused to give in to the United States and has committed to doing all it can to dethrone the dollar, thereby removing the dominance of the United States. So instead of waiting for the US to remove sanctions whenever they like, Russia, in conjunction with China under the BRICS alliance, has decided to create a new currency that is most likely backed by gold. This is probably why members of BRICS Plus, including China, Russia, and India, have been buying huge amounts of the precious metal. In 2023 alone, the World Gold Council reported that BRICS was the biggest butter of gold with China alone, adding 225 tons of gold to its reserve. And in early 2024, it was reported that BRICS had continued its gold buying spree. Recently, some African and Middle Eastern countries, including Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, Saudi Arabia, and Senegal, have decided to withdraw their gold reserves from the United States over concerns about the U.S. economy and to safeguard their wealth. Obviously, all these decisions and actions happening at the same time are in preparation for something that is about to the U.S. dollar. But this is not all. The de-dollarization initiative has been spreading its wings across the world, making developing countries end dependency on the dollar, and in late April, BRICS delivered yet another blow to the dollar. BRICS members, China and Russia recently signed a trade agreement to conduct $260 billion of trade without resorting to a single American dollar. According to the agreement, a trade deal will be initiated to settle payments in exchange for commodities purchased between the two nations. Both China and Russia will settle payments in the Chinese yuan and the Russian ruble, not the US dollar. According to reports, 95% of the $260 billion worth of trade will be settled in the Chinese yuan, while the rest, 5%, will be settled in the Russian ruble and the euro. This development indicates that the BRICS alliance is serious and will do almost anything to push the de-dollarization agenda ahead. However, this agreement is not just between China and Russia. The plan is for it to be replicated among all BRICS Plus members and also convince other countries, especially those in the global south, such as Africa, to follow suit. Just imagine how this will affect the dollar. Think about it. If African countries, for instance, begin to follow this agenda put forward by Brics, there is no doubt that the US dollar will be put under pressure, and local currencies will begin to gain strength in the financial sectors. If Brics ditches the dollar for trade, the USD currency will return to the homeland, leading to hyperinflation in America. Analysts also say that it will impact three financial sectors in the US negatively, leading to their decline. These sectors include banking, foreign exchange, tourism, and consumer goods and production. The directly targeted sectors like banking and financial sectors would witness a sharp plunge in foreign exchanges. However, this is just the beginning. First and foremost, the banking and financial sector will be the hardest hit as foreign exchanges will begin to decline. The forex markets run on supply and demand, and if the demand for the USD dips, the US central bank will find it harder to import the dollar. The Brics agenda will lead to a decline in demand for the dollar and see the dollar returning to America. And since the US has been importing its inflation to other countries for some years now, a return of the currency will lead to hyperinflation in the United States. Secondly, the technology sector will take a hit as inflation in the US leads to job losses. Additionally, multinational corporations have to shell out more money to keep businesses afloat and stay at the top without sinking. Ultimately, Brics can bring down the US economy if they stop accepting the dollar for payments. All this simply means that America will have to act fast if it wants to save its economy. But guess what? The United States' response to these impending situations is more sanctions. In order to counter the plan of the two influential Brics members in favor of de-dollarization, American authorities are playing the sanctions card. Under the guise of the Russia-Ukrainian conflict, the United States has threatened to sanction Chinese banks that conduct transactions with Moscow with sanctions, forcing them to reject payments in Russian ruble. These are threatened with being accused of aiding the Kremlin to fight Ukraine. It's why the United States Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen traveled to China. According to Yellen, the United States is prepared to sanction Chinese banks and companies, as well as Beijing's leadership, if they assist Russia's armed forces with the invasion of Ukraine. Although she says it's because of support for the Ukraine invasion, it's obvious that it has more to do with the fact that China and Russia are working together to dethrone the U.S. economic power. When will the U.S. learn? The rest of the world has had enough of their hegemony and dominance, and this recent threat of sanctions will only push Russia and China to go ahead with their plans. This is evident in a recent statement made by a diplomat who says that the Brics 2024 summit will focus mainly on the de-dollarization agenda. The Brics 2024 summit is scheduled to be held in October in the Kazan region of Russia, and will see 4 new countries being a part of the meeting, including the United Arab Emirates, UAE, Egypt, Iran, and Ethiopia. Saudi Arabia could also attend the upcoming summit if the kingdom agrees to be a part of the grouping. And if it does join the bloc, the de-dollarization initiatives could further strengthen. According to Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov in a latest interview, the 2024 BRICS summit will achieve historic milestones. He explained that the alliance will become much stronger after the 2024 summit, ushering developing nations into a multipolar world. The idea of a multipolar world is the key to de-dollarization, where BRICS countries will end reliance on the US dollar. Ryabkov said he is confident that BRICS will move toward success and be detrimental to the de-dollarization agenda. With a third of our presidency over, we can state that the leaders made a decision, which made BRICS much stronger. It has established itself as an influential cooperation system, a major link in the emerging architecture of the multipolar world, he said. Moreover, the minister added, "We are incrementally moving toward success. I am absolutely sure of that," he said. "I think that the summit in Kazan this October will be marked by new achievements in cooperation between BRICS countries," he summed it up. All these developments indicate that the BRICS alliance is pretty serious. There is no doubt that China and Russia will by any means push the de-dollarization agenda ahead. However, this situation might present a dilemma for India, as it currently shares strong ties with the US and Russia. But the fact is, India believes in the democratization of global trade and no monopolization of the global currency. Therefore, under the current regime, and like any other sovereign nation, follow the principle of self-preservation to safeguard its national aspirations and demands. This means it's very likely that India would support the agenda, albeit to varying degrees. The idea of de-dollarization is not a far-fetched dream anymore. China and Russia seem to be fixated on the idea of systematically killing the demand for the US dollar through global trade. And sooner or later, this will happen. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video.